So our topic is about exclusivity and inclusivity. and I'm reminded about, and it's a relevant topic, because especially now, with our Gurudev not physically present. And of course, we have, many great leaders in our mission, but not all of the disciples of Srila Govinda Maharaj and Srila Sridhar Maharaj feel that specific, connection with them that they felt with our Gurudev, Om Vishnu Pad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, and I'm seeing as the years, now it's going to be 10 years, next month, since our Gurudev has left the world. And I'm seeing, unfortunately, several cases of persons who were very faithful to our Gurudev when he was present, but are struggling now. And, this is, I'm not pointing the finger at one or two, but, several persons, they're struggling to maintain that exclusive focus that we want to have, on the conception, the line, the principle that has been given by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and our Gurudev and our Param Gurudev. That it's easy for what we have been given to become diluted, to lose that exclusivity and to become too inclusive within our own conception, within our own conception. And actually we need both, but it is about proper adjustment, I really appreciated once one talk of Srila Gurudev's about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he commented that he made this very nice point that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his internal bhajan was the most exclusive. He had great affinity for the worship of Gaur Gadadhar. That, worshipable ideal conception of Shishi Gaur Gadadhar, which is a very fine conception, which we don't go to, we don't enter into that because it's something too fine for us to be able to properly understand with our gross consciousness. So that was, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur worshipped those deities, in his place of bhajan. So internally, that was his internal worship, his Ishta Devata, we could say. Gaur Gadadhar as an expression of Shishi, Radha, Krishna. But so Gurudev said, his personal bhajan was the highest, was so fine, so exclusive. However, his preaching was the most broad. He's renowned for how broad he was. Saraswati Thakur, his preaching was very exclusive, actually. Saraswati Thakur, that comment of that Goswami Maharaj made, that Srila Sridhar Maharaj appreciated, that subtitle, that caption that Bhakti Siddhar Goswami Maharaj published, that Srila Sridhar Maharaj appreciated so much. He declared totalitarian war against Maya and even all other existing conceptions of religion. That's how exclusive Saraswati Thakur was. His preaching was also, exclusive. He was intolerant in a sense, But Bhaktivinoda Thakur's style was not like that, He was, Saraswati Thakur wanted to create an army of serious, exclusively focused, practitioners of a very exclusive ideal. But that wasn't Bhaktivinoda Thakur's style. He was very broad, and he accommodated. accommodated many people. He would meet with many different people. And he also preached in a very broad, range of formats, different languages and different media, and poetry and books and articles and English and Hindi and Sanskrit, Bengali, Persian, Tamil, and in the style of English Victorian poetry, like all kinds of things, He was extremely broad, in order to bring people, to attract people, to try to meet people at where they are and preach to them in a language that they can understand and in a style that they can appreciate, And Gurudev also mentioned how he gave one example of how Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he would write in different styles in order to approach different mentalities, And how in Srila Gurudev, he gave the example of Jaiva Dharma as being for the Indian mentality, and Chaitanya Shikshamrita was written more in the style that a Western, scientifically minded audience, could appreciate. But then we also see in Saraswati Thakur, he also had an inclusive method of preaching, but in a different way. We hear of. For one thing, he liked to do things in a very attractive way, in a very dignified way, in a grand way, in order to give some credibility and dignity and attract, a higher class of persons. Saraswati Thakur did, he was very, he was quite strict on that, actually. He didn't tolerate things being done in a raggedy type of way. He liked the presentation to be very nice. So that's one point. He had another expression of inclusivity, and then also we hear that that he had said that if necessary we can make some arrangement. Everyone knows that in order to preach to these students in the West, we can make some arrangement so that they can, if necessary, we can supply them with meat, Of course, that would be separate from the temple, from the ashram. But still, he was willing to go to such an extreme, in order to accommodate persons, And we also hear of he was also sensitive to different cultures and giving persons, time to, gradually come to a more, refined understanding of things and practice. There's that example of those Westerners who were visiting one of the temples in India, and some British men, and they have a habit of bathing naked, in the river, and so they were doing that next to one of the temples, and of course the locals were very disturbed, like in the Vedic culture, even in your own bathroom you won't bathe naked, It's like I think it's out of respect to the water or something, right? Like they wrap something around them, right? So what to speak of in public, there's no question of that,
Yeah, that's right. Water has a god, right? A demigod or some kind.
Everything is consciousness, yeah. Or people do this sunbathing, naked,
Yeah. I don't know what it's called, but nudist.
Right, yeah.
Beach
Yeah, like, okay, we can appreciate your like wanting to be natural and free, but like, do you realize like the earth is a person, the sky is a person, the ocean is a person, and they're actually, not only are they people, but they're devatas, and we don't want to just stand naked in front of them, like one of our devotees in Australia, Indumati. She's a surfer, She's like a surfer girl, and she said when she first came, she told Gurudev that she was a surfer, and Gurudev like really liked that he had like because not many ladies are like serious about surfing, so he thought that was like really cool. That he had and he was like, and she said he was asking like some of the other ladies, like, are you a surfer? Like, are you a surfer? Like, something like that, But like he made like a public thing out of it, like he was proud, like he had a lady surfer for a disciple, like he thought that was cool, But he told her, that the ocean is sacred. Is holy, because all the holy rivers go and merge into the ocean. So the ocean is sacred. And so he showed her how to, like, in the future, next time you're going in, then you make some prayer, and he showed her, I think it was like 3 times taking the water, and maybe there was even like a mantra or prayer. I'm going to see her in India. I'm gonna ask her. And I went with her one day to the ocean, and she did that, like before she went in, like she first did this, So yeah, there's this very like subtle way of like living with the environment, But anyhow, these Westerners, they were just bathing naked in this public, pond or something. And so some of the locals were disturbed, and it came to Saraswati Thakur, and he told his disciples just to build, make some construction around them, make some arrangement, so that the local people don't see. He didn't like call them and like give them some explanation. They're not. Don't need to like start laying down the law for them or giving them too many rules to confuse them about what this is, But let them have a good time, and let them like naturally develop some sensitivity. They're in this environment, they're going to see like how everyone else is behaving, and they're going to start to pick things up, and they're going to figure it out for themselves. So that's also interesting. He also had this broad spirit, in that sense, some, magnanimity in how he was dealing with new people. So if we want to preach, then there has to be some mood like that. It may be expressed in different ways, and we can see that, our Guru Varga all have different ways of expressing it, but it must be there, to some extent, in one way or another, will have to be there if you want to bring people in, Otherwise, like we hear about like so many stories about the Babajis, like Gorky Shore and Vamsidas, but they're not going to bring people in. Like what was that story you were telling me? How that about that king? Yeah.
Invited by a king to the palace.
Right.
And his response was, instead of me going to the palace, the king should get rid of all of his wealth and his servants and come live like me and have association.
Yeah, so like you can't go tell that to people like, give up all your money and all your property, everything. Come live with me on the bank of the river under an upturned boat. Yes. Like, that's not going to be a preaching strategy. Come to India and live with me under my tree, and we'll drink buttermilk and dried chapatis that have been sitting for a week, like. it's not going to work. You're not going to get anything from that. So, so if that is our aim, and because we're part of Saraswati Thakur's preaching mission today, still we're part of that movement. Then we have some duty, to have some mood of inclusivity, and to think about how we can apply some broad approach. But I mean, it's important. You're making an important point that we have to maintain that inner integrity within ourselves, because we were discussing this the other day, because sometimes it can be a very fine line, and you start going this way, to make things a bit more relaxed, to bring people, and then before you know it, you're like you've been converted to the other side, and you've forgotten what you're all about, and we're inviting people to yoga classes and whatever, in order to bring them in, and then before you know it, like you're getting to all that yourself, Ayurveda and yoga and pranayama and whatever, then you're doing something completely different, So, and so many temptations will come as well, because like if we wanted to, we could fill this place up like pretty quickly, if that was the goal, right? Just to bring lots of people. If we changed a few things, and we could do that, We know what the mass is like, and we could, we could come up with something to bring people in, we could like throw a disco or something, like there are all kinds of things, that would get
80s dance party.
People's attention, A what, sorry?
80s dance party.
80s dance party. So yeah, I mean, it's a fine line. There has to be some. If like the goal is just to become popular or to have lots of people or lots of followers, then we can do that. But that's not exactly what we want. We want to bring more people, but we also want to bring them to something very substantial. And that is like hard, it's hard to maintain that inner integrity. And, we can get very caught up in doing many things to bring people, but we're losing that inner vitality ourselves, So, what can I say? Constant self-reflection, that's something that helps me a lot. Constant self-reflection, reassessment. What are my motives and how am I doing? Because that's another point. I need to save myself, Not that I'll give up the attempt of bringing others, but I need to also, half of my energy should be going, at least half should be going towards my own, development and, cultivation of Krishna consciousness. So that type of like inner reflection, daily self-reflection, that is so important to maintain that inner focus and integrity. And then also having, if it's possible, to have have the support of a superior Vaishnava, someone that we can, feel like they're strong, they're in a strong place, and they can support me, I can go flying, this way and that way. My little balloon can go flying all over the place, but if it's tied to the feet of that Vaishnava, then, like Gurudev, he gave the example of someone who's like training a wild horse, something like that, and how sometimes the horse will go off and, the master will let the horse go off and do something, and then the horse will come back, and, and the training will continue. And, like there's that tether, like, so like if we have that link, that bond with a superior Vaishnav, then that, we may do some flying off here and there, but, we'll keep coming back, So that, always like that nice expression that Srila Bhakti Sranga Goswami Maharaj made, Simhavalokan, how they were all like these big lions, going forward in their preaching, but they're always checking back, like, how is Srila Sridhar Maharaj feeling about what we're doing? Is he approving? So in the same way, there always needs to be that, like checking in, checking in with the absolute, checking in with the center. Am I still on track? And yeah, and that, I mean, I'm really inspired by what Srila Avadut Maharaj has done in Ukraine, because I once in one of my discussions with the devotees there, I presented it I discussed it in terms of two circles, like there's the inner circle and there's the outer circle. The outer circle being all the things all the inclusive things that they're doing to bring people in, yoga and, art and cooking, all kinds of things. And then the inner circle being their like core conception, Krishna consciousness, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, the conception of our the exclusive fine conception of our Guru Varga, and that internal cultivation. And I mean, I've actually always been quite impressed with how like solid, I mean, not that I've met all the devotees there, but the ones that I have met, I've been quite impressed with how like solid they've actually been, not, of course, there's a spectrum, and everyone's kind of gravitating towards according to where they are in their own conception, but there's a good strong core of devotees who have a very clear conception, and even like new and like young devotees, like they know, they're not playing around, like they know what this is, and and they're making all these different kinds of attractive propaganda, playing on different ideas in the world, but they've got a very strong core within themselves. I've been quite impressed to see that. But what I was coming to say is, I think it's really, what's the word? Exemplary. What Avadut Maharaj has done now is that he's now established this new temple in the countryside, which will be like 100% focused on, pure Krishna consciousness, unmixed with anything else. Because in the cities, in Kharkov and Kiev, it's all a little mixed with the other projects that they're doing, exhibitions and yoga studio, etc. But this is like it's a prominent, beautiful, like a strong establishment, where it's going to be like just completely focused, So like having that like physical like manifestation of that ideal, that is something that will really support the whole, community in Ukraine, that, they'll understand, like, this represents, like, just, like, pure Krishna consciousness, and that will be something that will support everyone's faith. So yeah, I mean, that's what we all have to work out, and that will be different in it's not that everyone is supposed to adopt the same preaching strategies, as Avadut Maharaj is doing, but we'll all have like our different. We'll all have to like individually within ourselves and within our individually and collectively within our communities, have this clarity, within ourselves, about like what is going to be our strategy, what is our approach, how are we going to implement that, and then at the same time, how are we going to maintain that strong core and nourish that core of what we're about.
I just wanted to kind of add to what you're saying, or just emphasize a point, or I could be wrong too, so correct me. But I think the important part of what is happening in Ukraine is the fact that it's being led by Avadut Maharaj, that they're, whatever things are going on, go through him.
Yeah.
And he's an important guru figure.
Yes.
For that community, and I see that as being essential for expansion of proper expansion.
Yeah.
Of Krishna conscious communities.
Yeah, that's an important point. Yeah, especially if you're going to employ like kind of alternative things as a preaching method, to have someone who's actually qualified and mature enough to be able to do that without becoming, distracted themselves. Yeah, absolutely, that's a very important point. And I know, like I know of one person Gurudev told, don't imitate Avadut Maharaj. He told that to somebody. Like what he can do, like he can do that, So, that's a very important point. We have to be honest about, like, what is our adhikar and what are we capable of doing, because we could try many things to bring people, but we have to look within ourselves and ask, like, is that going to affect my own inner vitality? Am I in a strong enough place to be able to do that, so that I can do that and maintain my own inner core, At the end of the day, that's more important, that we maintain our own inner integrity, our own vitality. Because otherwise, you could, if you're not strong enough, you could do different things to bring people, but then you get lost yourself, And we've seen that, We've seen how people, they can start to compromise, compromise, and then they forget who they are, Or there's so many temptations out there, So, yeah. But it's a very nice point to remember and to reflect on, to discuss.
You mentioned inner reflection, right? That's a very important factor.
Yeah.
And I'm sometimes curious how others do that, to see, or to, not only that, like also to, we're always reminded that I myself have a cheating tendency and I'm not able to view myself correctly, and if I would, I'd get very depressed.
No need to be depressed.
But just that, how can we cultivate a correct awareness of where there's room for improvement and what's right and wrong,
Well, we have that's where the higher support comes in, and constantly, exposing ourselves to superior association and conception, whether it's in the form of, living Vaishnavas, or in the form of, hearing and reading, I pretty much do that every day, I try to hear something from Gurudev every day, and I'm still hearing fresh things, and then that's so grounding, actually, when you do that. because our mind can fly out all over the place, and then when you like, you expose yourself to that higher potency, and it's like brings you back down. It's like gives you some reference point, kind of like, where am I, and you remember, what is his conception? What is my relationship? What is my duty? What is it that he wants? What is his example? How has he dealt with these things? So that superior association, in whatever form it may take, that's crucial. When we're going through that self-reflection, that gives us our reference point, as to how we're doing, because we can also start to make our own standards, right? So, yeah. And to have like living association with, like-minded, if it's not possible to have like superior association, at least, like-minded persons, like you were sharing about like going to the Govinda Mela and meeting, so many of the devotees there. It's really like reaffirming, like for myself, because sometimes it's really important for me, like sometimes I'm in places where like everyone is very new, and, or everyone, their conception is just not very, because I'm moving around so many different places, that happens, there's no one, everyone's kind of, their conception is quite basic, and then, I can start to feel a little lost, actually. Like, I have no like, for where I am, what I'm trying to cultivate, what I'm trying to stay focused, I don't have any reference point. I'm not getting any reaffirmation. What's the word? Is that a word?
Reaffirmation. Reinforcement?
Reinforcement, or I guess affirmation is good enough. Reinforcement or affirmation of what it is that I'm trying to cultivate, then within my inner focus and inner cultivation, things can become diluted, So then if I can, talk to someone who's like on the same page, in person or phone or whatever, that gives me like new strength, So that it's actually really important, to do that. Checking in with each other and reminding. It's so important to have that like, have some like core group, even if it's just one or two persons, but someone who you really feel like, oh yeah, they're on the same page with me, and we're supporting each other and reminding each other and giving meaning to what we're trying to do. Validation, maybe that's the word I'm looking for. They're validating, what I'm doing. There was this one girl, I won't say where it was, just because I don't want anyone to look bad, But there was this one girl in one place I visited recently, and I was actually shocked, like, at how much she opened up. And this was in like a public class. And she said, I realized that I'm not making any progress because I don't have anyone who I can open my heart to. That was what she said to me. No. I'm not making progress because I don't have... I think maybe we were discussing the topic of progress and different challenges or something like that. And then she just she came out with that. And I was shocked, I realized I'm not making progress because I don't have anyone I can open my heart to. I was astonished, that she had that. I mean, one point that she had the courage to say that publicly, but then also that she had that kind of inner clarity within her, that she needed to reveal herself to some trusted person. And because she wasn't getting that, then she was feeling like she couldn't grow as a result, So I was very impressed by that, and it kind of reinforced within me like how important it is, to have that.
And it's nice that she was being very discerning about it, because that's important too. Because to open our heart to the wrong individual or a group of people can be very damaging.
Right.
So that was some very very strong spiritual discernment.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, those periods, they also have their place, when we're feeling alone, they can give us, they force us to draw like inner resources, So they also have their place, and they can help us too. And sometimes we can have friends who are reinforcing unhealthy, aspects of our, our devotional mood or whatever, our practice, that we kind of have this attitude which is unhealthy, and then we have a good friend who understands us, we're on the same page, and they're doing the same as us, and then we're reinforcing each other, I mean, I've experienced that in my life, like for example, like for example, to be in the mood of criticism, that's a tricky one. That's one that's very easy, to get sucked into. So if you're like very critical, you have some tendency, to, like I have that myself, And I actually feel so blessed, because I have like several good friends around me, who are also like discerning, but they're not like, that they can call me on stuff, if needed, or they won't respond, so they won't get sucked into it, So that's really blessed, But if you have some, like I can say some criticism about something, and they'll say, well, like what about this and what about that, and let's see it from another angle. And whatever. And even if I know that they've also had trouble from the person who I'm criticizing, like they're broad-minded enough to say, well, let's be like, look at this from a neutral point of view, So, but if you have a friend, like you have some critical mentality, and then you have a friend who also has that critical, and then you're feeding each other, That's really dangerous, So that's really nice if we can surround ourselves with, and if we should be healthy enough within ourselves that, like, if we do come out with, say, some criticism, and then the person is responding like in exactly the same mood, then we can think, oh, this person's not going to be helpful for me. Like, you're agreeing with me too much. You're too much like me. You should have disagreed with me on that point. You weren't a good friend.
That was a test.
That was a test, yeah. Srila Gurudev, it is really helpful to have clarity. We don't want to criticize, but we don't want to be self-delusional. So it's important to have clarity, like on what situations are. So to discuss things in that type of mood, it's helpful, But there's a difference between that and criticism, Srila Gurudev, he mentioned how, because Gurudev, he was like a young man, like joining the mission. Like Gurudev went straight to being Srila Sridhar Maharaj's like number one in like personal servitor. So Gurudev would get the inside info. And he was like a new boy, he's like 17. But because he went like immediately to being Srila Sridhar Maharaj's favorite and personal servants and everything, then Gurudev would get the inside info. He'd get like the lowdown, like on everyone and everything going on in the Gaudiya mission. And he said that he would that Guru Maharaj would like careful, like he would ask like in a careful way. He used that word careful, like Gurudev wanted to know like what is the situation with this person, like how should our dealings be, and like who's going to be healthy for me to have a relationship, friendship, or feel closer in my heart, or things like that. So Gurudev said something like I would inquire in a careful way to Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj would tell me everything, So it's helpful, to have that type of clarity, But we do have to be careful and to keep, some broadness, in our perspective of things, to see, both sides, Yeah, to have, good association is so valuable. But we can't fall into the trap of maintaining bad association just for the sake of having some association. That is more dangerous, To be alone may be difficult, but to have bad friends, that is much worse. That is very injurious. There was this one, I was surprised when I heard this. It was one talk of Gurudev, maybe in South Africa, and somebody asked Srila Gurudev, what is the main obstacle that we face? And there's different ways that this can be answered, and there's different approaches, to that. You could say kanak, kamini, pratishta, wealth, sense pleasure, fame. These are sometimes described as the main challenges that we'll face. But on this occasion, Gurudev answered by saying the main general obstacle that we face is bad association. He framed it like that. And I was thinking, actually all these other things, they will come through bad association, Like these tendencies that we have in ourselves for fame or chasing after various things, they'll all be reinforced by negative association. Reinforced or may even be, initiated, So... And we see in different places in the scriptures that point is given a lot of importance. Mahaprabhu, in one place, he's asked, what is the main characteristic of a Vaishnav? And this is also actually quite surprising, the way that he answers. He answers in a negative sense. What is the main characteristic of a Vaishnav? He didn't say, serve Krishna, serve the Vaishnavas, chant Harinam. He didn't answer like that. Of course, he talks about that all the time in other places. But when he was asked this specific point, what is the main characteristic of a Vaishnav? He said, asat sanga tyag, a Vaishnava char, right? To give up asat sanga, to give up bad association, a Vaishnava char. This is the main characteristic of a Vaishnav. That's really, let's think about that. That Mahaprabhu would give that answer, And I also noted that in Upadesh Amrita, that point is actually given twice, right? As both a positive injunction and a negative, prohibition. It's listed in both the favorable qualities and the unfavorable qualities twice, It's listed as unfavorable to keep bad association and favorable to give up bad association. So it's made, it's really emphasized.
Well, we take on the qualities of whoever we're with.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just what it means to be in relationship.
Right.
Relating.
Right. And another thing about that bad association, and that means like not just with people, but also with ideas, worldly conceptions, whether in the form of books or whatever, newspapers, whatever. I mean, not that you can't read newspapers, but with the right angle of vision. But what that does is it takes up all the space. There's no room for anything else. You're already full. Someone's giving you a beautiful plate of prasadam, but you just went to McDonald's, and you're full, so there's no space, So we were just hearing that in affectionate guidance. It was so funny. Gurudev said, you have to take a purgative. You were there, huh? Like, you need to empty out, like, make some space to receive something. Take a purgative if you need to,
And isn't it purgative that makes you throw up?
Yeah, I think so, right?
Well, that was interesting, because, because it almost seems like that's the process of cleansing and purifying. So you end up feeling bad, like, it's like,
Detox.
this is, even if it's a spiritual cleanse,
Yeah.
When you're going through the realization process, it's just like, it's just like that feeling. That's what it feels like for me anyway. So I really relate to purgatory. It's like, this stuff that exists in me, material nature, it's so gross.
Yeah, detox is actually like that, when all the crap starts coming out of you get more sick,
Yeah.
So, we need to keep that space within us so that we can actually receive, what's coming from a superior plane. But if we're too, full of or engaging too much with other things, and there's no space, it'll just bounce right off of us, or in one ear and out the other ear. So, yeah. So, those challenges will come. There may be those moments when we have to be a little bit alone. We have to be like the chatak bird. Only drinking the water that falls from above, never taking anything from the ground. Maybe I'll die of thirst while I'm waiting, but better that than to drink some muddy water, So, those type of tests, examinations, they'll come to us, to see how strong are we in our resolve. And we have to keep that inner faith within us, that no matter how difficult or dark it may feel at times, Guru and Gauranga, Radha, Govinda, they are there, they are overhead. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj discusses that in Sri Guru and His Grace, how our superiors, they're always watching, our guardians are always watching us, and they will be happy to see, that we're maintaining that inner purity and inner resolve, and continuing, even alone if necessary. They will be happy to see that. And he also mentions there how we have so many invisible guardians watching over us and giving support. They must be, our whole Guru Varga. If they see some sincere soul is approaching, towards this, and how much goodwill must they be giving, towards us. They are alive, they are not dead. Well, should we stop there?
Very nourishing, thank you.
Do you have any comments, Virachandra?
So many things, you mentioned so many things. It's hard to pin something down. There's so many things, but I mean, I think you know when you mentioned something about people, when they do something else, they get distracted. And they end up doing something else. For me, it's always been quite important to understand why I'm here in the first place, you know? Because once you... Because you could become distracted, but then it's like, it seems so temporary. It's like you can't escape from the truth that you are temporary, and there is really no alternative. From when you think about it like that, it's like everything else is just a temporary distraction. So if someone does become distracted by something else, everyone can be distracted, me included, in different situations. But I think ultimately, if you are grounded by those concepts, you can't really leave for too long. You have to come back. I mean, there's no alternative. You have to have some meaning in your life and some depth. And I think once someone does understand that, if you can make someone understand that, it's very hard to escape that. I mean, what else can you do? You know, you go out and maybe you pursue a career, but it's temporary. So again, you're back to square one. There's no escape from it. So if someone does leave, I think maybe they didn't really understand why they were there in the first place or something. Like, I'm here for like a community thing, or for some other reason, or at least for me, it's always been the most. It's the inescapable fact that without something meaningful in your life, you don't really have anything, no matter what happens.
Yeah, that's a very nice point. That's also something that I find very grounding, to remember, like, why I'm here, why I came, or to remember the initial enthusiasm that I had, like if I'm going through a dry patch, or my head's getting spun around by ego tripping or whatever, to remember, what it was like on day one, like you just had a very different, there was a simplicity there, there's a kind of purity and vitality that is there, that, when we kind of start out, that it's easy to lose, for various reasons, dealing with anarthas within ourselves, or getting distracted by other things within the movement or outside of the movement or whatever. So it tends to kind of have some movement. Like Gurudev gave the example of water rushing down the side of a mountain. Like in the beginning it's rushing, then it hits the ground and it's all trickling. So of course, like that initial enthusiasm, it's not very substantial, but still, to remember that, and to develop that in a substantial way, that's the ideal, really, So that is something that I do find grounding, to remember, that simplicity and freshness, that we had when we were like, babies. We're still babies, but we were like pre-babies, younger babies. So that is also something quite grounding. Like what was inspiring me at that time, like very simple things, to feel excited to wash some pots, And I should still feel that, And am I feeling that? And if I'm not, then I need to do something about it, you know? Like this type of self-analysis is helpful. That's a really nice point. Vishmohini, you've also been very quiet. Do you want to say anything on any of the topics we've discussed? Okay. Well, Dryden, if you want to add anything else, or should we stop there? Okay.
Jai Sriyukta Vishakha Devi ki
Bhakti Sundar Govinda
Jai.
Are we ready for the arati now? Should we turn off the camera? Or-
Do you know how to turn off the camera?
Okay. Or maybe Virchandra, do you want to lead us in Bhaja Hudema while we're waiting?
Is there time?
Do we? They haven't brought the. Or we're waiting,
No,
or is it
I
right
mean,
now?
She's ready, but like she'll come in a second. But
Okay.
it's as you like.
Well, it's just because the camera's still rolling. So I'm
Yeah, I
thinking.
don't know how to turn it on.
Okay, she's here.
not